On this page, we're going to look at tangent line at a point. So you've seen tangent lines before. You saw them back in geometry when you were looking at the very end of the school year. So let me kind of refresh your memory as to what a tangent line is as you've seen it back in geometry. So I'm pretty sure this is around the time you guys learned circles. So you had a circle, and a tangent line is a literal linear function that only touches your circle at one point. So a tangent line would be like this line here. It's only going to touch this circle at this one point. That's what a tangent line is. So for these, we're not necessarily just looking at circles. We're looking at quadratic functions, cubic functions. We're looking at a bunch of different functions. No matter what, we're just looking to see where this line touches at one point. That's all we're looking for. So for instance, in the first question, it says the slope of a tangent line at any given point on the function 2x squared plus 6 is m of x, which equals 4x. Find the equation of the tangent line at point -1, 8. So for this problem, I'm going to graph this out to show you what I'm talking about before we go through it. This right now, 2x squared plus 6, what type of function is that? It's a parabola. It's a quadratic. And this parabola looks like it's probably opening up, and it probably shifts up 6 units. So we're going to graph it something like this. What it's saying is you have a tangent line that's touching at -1, positive 8. So it's touching somewhere over here. We're going to pretend like this point is -1, 8, even though I know it's not. We need to find out what is the equation for this line. So for all of these, we're trying to find this orange equation. That's what we're doing for this whole page. So at many different graphs that we're given, we're just trying to find a linear equation at one point. Let me ask you this. When you were back in Algebra 1, there were 3 linear forms that you learned for writing an equation of a line. What are the 3 forms to write an equation of a line? Standard form. So this is ax plus by equals c. What else? Slope-intercept. And point slope. Don't worry, I'll wait. Those are the 3 forms that you learned back in Algebra 1. All we're going to do is we're going to probably do about 3 questions on this page. Of the 3 questions, we're just going to write them in standard slope, intercept, or point slope form. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're definitely going to do example 1 since I started it off. And we're going to write this one for this equation in slope-intercept form. So for this equation, we're going to write it in y equals mx plus b. Okay, so this problem says, I'll read it again. The slope of a tangent line of any given point of the function f of x is m of x, which equals 4x. Find the equation of the line, and we're writing it in point or slope-intercept form. Find the equation of the tangent line at point -1, 8. Okay, it's a lot of information, but think back to slope-intercept form. When you have slope-intercept form, what are the only 2 things you need to write your equation? Slope and a y-intercept. Those are the 2 things. So that's the same thing I need from this problem here. I see the word slope. Which of these equations is going to give me the slope? F of x or m of x? M of x. So the slope is going to be representative of m of x. So let's find the slope first. So first step, we're going to find our slope. So to find our slope, I'm going to take, I need a value. What value should I use if I'm going to find the slope? I know I'm going to use the m of x formula. You're absolutely right. But what do I plug in for x? Both of them or just the -1? Just the -1. It needs to go through this whole point, but it needs to have a slope that connects with 1. So we're going to take that -1 and we're going to substitute it in for the x. So we're going to have m of -1, which is 4 times -1. 4 times -1 is just -4. That's my slope. Okay, well, I know you guys told me for y equals mx plus b, you need the y-intercept, but they didn't give me the y-intercept. What can I do with this point and this slope to try to find the y-intercept? Plug into what? The slope-intercept form. We could plug it into this. Technically, you could also plug it into point slope, but we'll do a slope-intercept form because I feel like it's a little easy. So for this one in red, for step 2, we're going to find our equation. So find the b in y equals mx plus b. That's mx plus b. So down here, and I'm going to use m equals -4, we just found that, and -1, comma 8. I'm writing these steps out so when you come back to it later, you don't get confused as to what we did. So if you haven't been writing these steps, write them down. So I'm going to write this as y equals mx plus b. In this problem, the m is, of course, m. I have that. X is here, y is here. Take these 3 pieces and substitute. So 8 will equal -4 times -1 plus b as in boy. Negative times negative will turn into +4 plus b. And in order to get b completely isolated, I'm going to subtract 4. So if I was asking you again, like the question says, find the equation of the tangent line, you guys tell me what that is in slope-intercept form. Y equals what? That's your equation. That's all I'm looking for. Yes, ma'am. So this line here. So this line. So the way that they found this is using calculus. I'm removing the part where you have to use calculus to find this equation, but you're going to learn about this when you get into calculus as far as how to derive that. On tests and quizzes, I'm not going to ask you to find that one on your own. I'm going to give it to you. What is it? That's what I explained at the very beginning with the graph. So I'm going to explain that again. That's your tangent line. That's the slope for your tangent line. Okay, you're asking a lot of questions right now. So let's start with the first question. When you're finding your slope is representative of when you have this function. So I'm highlighting this in red. When you have this function, it says it wants to know at this one point, which is right here, -1, 8, what's the equation of the line at that one point? So by finding this m of x formula, it's telling you, hey, you need to find the slope of this orange line. The way you find the slope is you use this formula right here. There is no more, like we did on the last page, there's no more y2 minus y1 here. You don't need to do that. They've already done it for you. Does that make sense? Okay, no, if it doesn't, let me know. All right, we're good? Any other questions? Okay, perfect. Let's look at example 2. There's a little difference between example 2 and example 1, so be on the lookout. So for example 2, this one says find the equation of the tangent line at x equals 3 of the function f of x equals x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2 if the slope of the tangent line is m of x equals 3x squared minus x, or 6x. I read the whole problem. What's missing? There's something missing from example 2 compared to example 1. The point. Did they give you anything in regards to the point? The x value. They gave you the x value right up here. So unfortunately, we're going to have to add in one more step here, and that's going to be to find my coordinate. So I don't have the coordinate just yet. I need to find it. So I'm going to go through almost the same steps that we just did, but I'm going to do it for this question. So I'm going to graph this out to show you what we're looking at. When you have x cubed, this is a cubic function. So cubic functions look something like this, and it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be close. Well, it's going to look something like that. That's a cubic function. What it's saying is at one point where x is equal to 3, so we'll say x equals 3, you're going to have some kind of line that's going tangent to it. It's barely touching right at that one point, and it's going to keep going. What we're trying to find is this red equation. That's what we're finding. So in order to find this red equation, I need to use the slope formula that I have here. So it labels the slope for you. So my first step is to find my slope formula. You guys told me the x value that we have is positive 3, so let's plug that in. And let's find our slope. Again, be careful using order of operations. Don't do 3 times 3 and then square it. So the first thing I'm going to do is 3 squared, which is 9. And 9 times 3 is going to give me 27. What's 27 minus 18? What did I just find? Slope. So when your x value is 3, the slope is going to be 9. Okay, if you think back to the steps we just did on the last question, we need to have a point by now. Okay, well, I don't have a point. How am I going to find the y value for my point? I'll give you a hint. We cannot use m of x because that was our slope formula. How can I find my y for my x value? F of x. We're going to use the original function of x. This is the actual curve. That's this whole black curve. All I need to do is try to find the y coordinate at x equals 3. So the way I'm going to do that, which is step 2, we're going to find our y value using f of x. So for this question, we have x is equal to 3. I need to find my y value. And the way we're going to find it is by doing f of 3, which equals all of this. Before we continue, have I lost anybody with what I just did? You okay? If you're good, let me know. Why can't you use what? 3, 9, because what did we say that this formula is? It's the slope, so you can't use the exact same one. Yes, thank you. All right, y'all can solve it. Don't tell me 3 cubed is 9, because that's not right. Go ahead and simplify it. I'm giving you a head start because the next question I give you guys, y'all are doing completely by yourself. I'm not doing it with you. So I got my y value. That's going to be a positive 2 because 3 squared is 27, 3 cubed is 27, 3 squared is 9, and when you multiply 9 by 3, you'll get 27 again. This question said for you to write the equation of the line. It doesn't specify how I want you to write it, so we're going to write this equation in point slope form because it's honestly the easiest. So for this question, we're going to write the equation in y minus y1 equals m x minus x1 form, which is point slope. And it's a really quick way to end that question. So down here for example 3, I'm going to write the equation of the line in point slope form. So for step 3, I'm going to write the equation. On tests and quizzes, if I don't tell you how to write the equation in what form, you get to pick. If I tell you to write it in point slope form, don't give me slope intercept. Give me point slope. So for point slope form, we're going to use y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. I have my point labeled x1, y1 here, and this guy is my slope. So I'm going to take these 3 pieces and substitute them in pink. So y minus my y1 equals 9, x minus your x1. I plug these in using parentheses to see if your signs change. Do any of these signs change? No, it's still going to be negative 2, negative 3. So I'm going to write my final answer as y minus 2 equals 9, x minus 3. This is my answer. Give me a nod or shake. Does this make sense with what we just did? Okay. Right underneath it, number 4 that's in view, that's what you guys are doing. So I'm going to read it to you, and I don't want you to panic because it says using calculus. We have the function y equals x cubed plus 2x minus 6. Using calculus, we have determined the slope of your tangent line to the curve at any point xy is k of x equals 3x squared plus 2. What is the equation of the tangent line at x equals 4? Okay, well, I'm going to have you do this. For this problem, for the equation, I want you to write it in standard form. So write this equation in standard form. When it says using calculus, that's not going to affect anything you're doing in this question. When you get to calculus, you'll learn how to actually derive that formula. But all I want you to do is take the 3 steps that we just did on this question up here and solve question number 4. That's all I want you to do. So take the exact same 3 steps and use it to solve this question here. Really quick, I don't see an m of x formula. Which formula is the slope one? K of x. So if you need to make a note, this formula that I'm highlighting in yellow is your slope. That's your slope. So you're not looking for an m of x anymore. All right, I'm going to give you guys about 3 or 4 minutes to get this done. Double check your slope with mine. That's a 50, not a 60 or a robot. That's a 50. How about 1 more minute? Remember, you're writing this in standard form. All right, for step 2 in this, you should have found the coordinate, so you should have plugged in 4 into h of x. So you would have had 4 cubed plus 2 times 4 minus 6. That means at h of 4, your y value should have been 66. Yes or no? Do you guys agree with that? Okay, good, because I'm putting it. So 4 comma 66, that is supposed to be a 66. That's your coordinate. I have the point, I have the slope. I now need to find the actual equation. How do I find the equation if I'm going to write it in standard form? Where should I start? Okay, we could start in slope-intercept, but we would have to actually find the y-intercept first. If this point was 0 comma 66, I would say 100% yes, use slope-intercept form. It'll actually save you some time. Since this isn't the y-intercept though, you cannot, I will say this again and make sure you look up, you cannot plug it into standard form just as it is. You have to manipulate your equation to get to standard form. So if I were you, instead of starting with slope-intercept form, of course, unless it's a y-intercept, start with point slope. So I'm going to start with point slope down here, and we're going to write our equation from there. So step 3, we're going to write this as y minus y1 equals m, x minus x1. Here's m, here's x1, here's y1. So y minus y1 equals m, remember that's 50, x minus x1. All right, I'm going to simplify. And now what? Because that's still point slope. Okay, let's distribute. That's still not standard. Add 66. So y is going to equal 50x minus 134. I'll give you a second to catch up if you haven't caught up yet. This still isn't in standard form. Don't yell it out, just think about it. How do I get this in standard form? It's in slope-intercept. Y'all tell me now. What do you do? Subtract 50x. So we're going to move this 50x to the very front of your equation. So we're going to make this negative 50x plus y equals negative 134. This is technically standard form, but it's not pretty. Whenever you learned how to do this in standard form, you should have learned that whenever your a value is here, so your leading coefficient, which is this 50, it should always be positive. How do I make this positive? You can either multiply or divide by a negative 1. I always multiply. I find it easier. But if you want to divide, it should give you the exact same answer. I'm going to multiply everything by negative 1. So that's going to switch every sign. So it's 50x minus y equals positive 134. That's your answer. So the whole point of going through all 3 forms is if I give you a question like this on a test or quiz, do not say, Ms. Tapia, you never taught me how to write this in standard form, and it's been 3 years since I've seen Algebra 1. Congratulations, you've just seen it. So the remaining 2 questions that I haven't gotten to, if I can zoom out, the remaining 2 questions that I haven't gotten to, they're a little challenging, they're not impossible, but I want you to use those as extra practice for your tests and quizzes. It's the exact same steps that we've been doing. Are there any last questions? Go ahead. So the 2 questions, numbers 3 and 5, we haven't done those. Those are extra practice for your tests and quiz. That's all.